Hi, I'm Mike Beliveau, and today we're out at Duelist Den, and our subject this week is going to be the third most popular set of revolvers in the Union forces during the Civil War. And of course, I am talking about the Starr revolver. And today we're going to be looking at both the double action Starr and the single action Starr. So it's about 10 years since I did anything with the Starrs, and I was only with the single action Starr. So I think this will be the first time you've seen the double action Starr in actual firing action. You've seen it as a photo gun in some of my videos previously, but we're going to shoot it this time. And hopefully you're going to enjoy that. Hopefully I'll enjoy it. So we're going to show you how to load them up. Going to do a little shooting. Going to talk about the history and the mechanics of them. And hopefully we'll have a good time here at Duelist Den. Well, if things get a little bit choppy in today's video, I hope you'll forgive me. I'm going to try to keep it as smooth as possible. We're kind of in a weird weather pattern today. First of all, it is stinking hot and humid, which I know most of the rest of the country is having it even worse than we are. So at least it's not 100 degrees here. But that's one thing to deal with. But the main problem is we're in a cycle where we've been getting huge thunderstorms overnight. And they usually clear out by morning. And the days have been pretty good, which is not bad, right? But for some reason, last night's storms are hanging around. And even though it's like perfectly sunny here at Duelist Den, periodically, I mean, when I first got here, it was like every 15 minutes. We'd get like a 4-minute downpour. I mean, pour. And then beautiful again, right? So I'd be scrambling, grabbing the cameras and trying to get them under cover because it's like thousands of dollars of electronic equipment. And I already lost one camera this year. So that's not pleasant. And getting back out here. Now it's down to like every half hour or so it happens. And, you know, so at some point, right in the middle of a shooting sequence, I might be yelling cut and grabbing the cameras and trying to get them in the trucks out of the main downpour. So put up with that. Also, I hope the audio is going to be better in today's video than it has been in the last couple. I've gotten some complaints and I totally understand. And the fault is all mine. I got this new camera. It's a real jazzy blasting camera, but of course you got to learn how to use those things. And this was quite complicated to use. And I've just now, I think, got the audio fully dialed in. We'll know after this video. I might have to do a little more manual tweaking, but I think I might have it now. So hopefully we'll have solved that problem. So my apologies for the last couple of videos. So let's get to work. Okay, we're going to load the Starr double action revolver. And if you're used to loading Remingtons or Colts, forget everything you know. So the Starr is kind of interesting, as I'll be telling you in its history. This is not really a trigger. This is a lifting lever. It lifts the hammer. The actual trigger is that little stub right there. Okay, so that's how you fire it in single action. You can't just thumb cock the hammer. So kind of the issue with this is, in order to oh, and I should also point out, there are 12 bolt stops. And that's what provides the safety on this gun. You stop it between chambers. But there's no real half cock notch on here. So you've got to manipulate the trigger to get the bolt to drop so you can turn the cylinder. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. Now I'm going to load 30 grains of 3FG Swiss powder. And I'm going to load all 6 because we will use a safety feature. So, as I say, you get a chamber lined up, get your powder dropped in, I'm using a pre-greased felt wad over the powder. I just pop that in. I'm going to use this little jag just to get it seated down. I'm going to put a 454 ball in. Now I gotta, if I wasn't doing this for the camera, it'd be a little bit easier. So I've got it under the loading lever, and now just conventionally, I'm gonna ram it in, I hope. Okay, I really had to muscle it in. So that's the loading procedure. Now you can get quite a bit of powder in these, so I could load it up more than this, but I have no desire to do that. So now I'm just gonna load the other 5, and then I'm gonna cap it. Okay, so I capped it up with RWS 1075 caps, which these nipples really do prefer. Even with this, we're going to have a problem. But I did all 6, and I've got it locked up right now in one of these stops in between the chambers. Right, so I've got it on a safety stop, and we should be ready to go shoot. Now I'm going to tell you, this gun has never been good for me. And if you've got one and you love it, God bless you. I wish I did. I got this when they first came out. I called my buddy Butch Winter at Dixie Gun Works. He was the head of publicity at the time, and a great guy. He has since passed away, but he was a very good friend of mine. And I told Butch, I said, hey, I want one of those Starr double actions. I'm going to do an article on it. And he said, Mike, I'm begging you not to do that. And I said, no, I really want to. They look really interesting. He said, Mike, he said, I'll send you one. He said, maybe you'll like it. He said, but the odds are that you won't. He said, because most of these guns don't work. He said, now the single actions are really good, so I'm going to send you one of those too. He said, so if you don't like the double action, please promise me you won't say anything about it. And we're trying to get some issues resolved. And just write about the single action, which I know you're going to love. So I said, okay, because that's the way we did things in the magazine world. So here it is, 30 years later, and I'm not in the magazine world anymore, and Butch is dead, so he can't get in trouble for any of this stuff. So I'm just going to say, Butch was right. This gun, mine anyway, is improperly made. There's no two ways about it. The only way I can get it to go off is to back the nipples out about 2 turns. The hammer does not go all the way to the nipple, which of course it's really not supposed to, but it's only supposed to be like a micron off. And it doesn't hit anywhere hard enough to bust caps. And I've played with this thing. I haven't done the real difficult modifications that need to be done to truly make it work. Which I might, because I've got friends on Facebook that call me a quitter, tell me they've got this gun, and when they bought it, it didn't shoot, but they worked on it, and once I got it right, they absolutely love it. So, okay, maybe I'll do that. Because the other problem is, it just hangs up every 2 or 3 shots, and you can't muscle through it or anything. You've got to twinkle the gun until it works, and often you got to break it. It's a break top action. Often you got to break it down, get the action working again, put it back together, hope it still works when it's back together. The hand is the issue. I've gone through 2 hands on this thing trying to get it right. This one actually is pretty good. It functions more often than it doesn't, but that's still not anything to write home about. So anyway, now we're loaded, and now you know the story, and we're going to go see if we can shoot this thing on Evil Roy. Well, Evil Roy is up to his usual evil tricks. He's using the confusion of war to take advantage of the good folks of Blymire's Hollow with his robbing and pillaging ways. So we're going to have to take the Starr double action and try to end his depredations. And I think Roy is liking his chances against this gun, so we'll have to see how it goes. Okay, well, luckily I got Roy twice. So you can see what I said about this Starr. This is just not a stellar performer. In the early 19th century, the Starr family was known as weapons producers, but they were producers of edged weapons, like swords, cutlasses, pikes, that sort of thing. In 1799, Nathan Starr, the family patriarch, received his first government contract, and that was for swords. Now, over the course of the 19th century, the company continued to grow, and one generation of Starrs succeeded another, until in 1845, Ebenezer Starr, the great-grandson of Nathan Starr, took over the company. In 1858, Ebenezer, who preferred to be called Eben, and we can all understand that, I think, patented a double-action revolver in .36 caliber that caught the attention of the United States government. And the government ordered 500 of those for Navy use. Between the initial contract and the end of 1861, Eben Starr's company had produced 3,000 .36 caliber revolvers, double action, mostly for Navy use. But as the Civil War really got rolling, the government was desperate for small arms to equip the Army. And they needed a .44 caliber for that. That was their standard Army caliber. And they came to Eben Starr to see if he could manufacture his double action revolver in .44 caliber. And the answer, of course, was yes. In 1861, Simon Cameron, who was the Secretary of War, issued a contract with Starr to produce 20,000 double action revolvers in .44 caliber, this gun. Now, ultimately, they were produced, but most of them were not issued. Most of them languished in warehouses. About 10,000 of them were issued to the cavalry, and that was mostly in the Western Theater. So if you're a reenactor of Shiloh or Vicksburg, this is a gun that you might want to have in your kit. Ultimately, Starr delivered over 21,000 of the .44 caliber double action guns to the Army, and nearly 2,000 of the .36 caliber double action guns to the Navy. The double action proved to be unpopular with the troops, and most of the complaints were around the trigger mechanism. Now, I showed you in the live firing demo, the trigger is very odd on this. So in the patent, the obvious trigger, is called a lifting lever. And its job is really just to cock the action. So that's what what looks like the trigger does. The actual trigger is this little stub right back here. And that's what fires the gun. Now in double action mode, the lifting lever goes back far enough that it contacts the actual trigger at the moment of firing and sets the gun off. But if you want to fire it in single action, you can't cock the hammer. I mean, you can, but it messes up the timing. What you need to do, and there's a little plate back here so you can set it for single action. You got to relieve a screw, slide a stop down, and it stops it before it can touch that trigger. But you can just do it by feel. So we're going to go up, going to cock the hammer, and then fire at single action. So I would guess that nobody fired at single action in actual combat, because man, your fine motor skills, you got adrenaline coursing through you, your fine motor skills are not up to par for that kind of activity of feeling this thing home, and then so you can aim it and fire it. And in double action, you absolutely cannot aim this gun because the sights are in the hammer nose, just like a Colt. So in double action, they only appear for a split second, right? So this is a point and shoot gun in double action. And that's about as good as it gets. So they really weren't that popular with the troops. I mean, I could see having this as a second gun in a cavalry melee, so that you had one that you could fire deliberately in single action, and when you got close, you know, you could use this one all around. But the fact remains, they were not popular. The other problem with them is the action has got to completely complete its cycle. If for any reason the hammer does not descend all the way to the nipple, as low as it can go, I mean even just a tiny fraction of an inch, the gun will lock up. So if you've got, as actually happens to it sometimes, if you've got it rocking the hammer a little bit under recoil, it just jams up on you. Those are things I think can be worked on by smoothing out the action. I mean, these are flaws from the manufacturing. The initial, original Starrs don't have all of those issues. But one issue they do have was chain fires. And that's because I told you in the loading sequence, there's no protection around the cones. They're just out there. So any crossover fire is quite possible. Now, it's not going to happen all the time, and your best bet of it happening is if a cap falls off a nipple. And I will give Pieta credit for doing nipples that are made better on this gun to retain caps. They have more of an angle on them. They're a little bit shorter. So they were made with that problem in mind. I'll give Pieta credit for that. But the problems that I experienced with my gun, that can be attributed to manufacturing defects. The hammer is not making it far enough onto the nipple. Some of the frame needs to be relieved, or a little bit of the hammer needs to be relieved to get that all the way down. It also needs a stiffer mainspring. My mainspring is quite light, and need to stiffen that up a little bit. So I've been thinking about this all the while I was shooting it, and this thing is always shot like this for me, so I shoot it very rarely because it's so frustrating. I could probably fix the issues with it myself, but I've got enough projects, I decided while I was shooting, but I would like to get this thing squared away so I can give you a demonstration of the way it's supposed to shoot. So I'm going to contact Dave Stavlow after I get home and see if he's game to take it on. If anybody can fix this thing, Dave can. He is the best cap and ball gunsmith that I know, truly excellent. So I'm going to give him a crack at it. So that's the story on the double action Starr. Now let's take a look at the single action Starr. Let's load that thing up and go see what it'll do on Evil Roy. Okay, so I capped it up with RWS 1075 caps, which these nipples really do prefer. Even with this, we're going to have a problem. But I did all 6, and I've got it locked up right now in one of these stops in between the chambers. Right, so I've got it on a safety stop, and we should be ready to go shoot. Now I'm going to tell you, this gun has never been good for me. And if you've got one and you love it, God bless you. I wish I did. I got this when they first came out. I called my buddy Butch Winter at Dixie Gun Works. He was the head of publicity at the time, and a great guy. He has since passed away, but he was a very good friend of mine. And I told Butch, I said, hey, I want one of those Starr double actions. I'm going to do an article on it. And he said, Mike, I'm begging you not to do that. And I said, no, I really want to. They look really interesting. He said, Mike, he said, I'll send you one. He said, maybe you'll like it. He said, but the odds are that you won't. He said, because most of these guns don't work. He said, now the single actions are really good, so I'm going to send you one of those too. He said, so if you don't like the double action, please promise me you won't say anything about it. And we're trying to get some issues resolved. And just write about the single action, which I know you're going to love. So I said, okay, because that's the way we did things in the magazine world. So here it is, 30 years later, and I'm not in the magazine world anymore, and Butch is dead, so he can't get in trouble for any of this stuff, so I'm just going to say, Butch was right. This gun, mine anyway, is improperly made. There's no two ways about it. The only way I can get it to go off is to back the nipples out about 2 turns. The hammer does not go all the way to the nipple, which of course it's really not supposed to, but it's only supposed to be like a micron off. And it doesn't hit anywhere hard enough to bust caps. And I've played with this thing. I haven't done the real difficult modifications that need to be done to truly make it work. Which I might, because I've got friends on Facebook that call me a quitter, tell me they've got this gun, and when they bought it, it didn't shoot, but they worked on it, and once I got it right, they absolutely love it. So, okay, maybe I'll do that. Because the other problem is, it just hangs up every 2 or 3 shots, and you can't muscle through it or anything. You've got to twinkle the gun until it works, and often you got to break it. It's a break top action. Often you got to break it down, get the action working again, put it back together, hope it still works when it's back together. The hand is the issue. I've gone through 2 hands on this thing trying to get it right. This one actually is pretty good. It functions more often than it doesn't, but that's still not anything to write home about. So anyway, now we're loaded, and now you know the story, and we're going to go see if we can shoot this thing on Evil Roy. Well, unlike the double action gun, this one loads a lot more conventionally. It's got a half-cock notch, which is what you're going to set it to be able to load it. I'm going to load once again with 30 grains of 3F Swiss powder. And I'm going to load round ball this time. Okay, so we just pour in the powder, if I can get. And I'm going to seat in a wad. Just using this jag to just kind of get it started. Taking a 4.54 ball. Now, unlike the double action, which has a 6-inch barrel, this gun has an 8-inch barrel, so there's a lot more leverage on the loading lever for getting it loaded. So I'm going to load all 6 just like that, and then we'll cap it up. Alright, we got it loaded up. Now I'm going to use RWS 1075 caps again on my Swedish capper. I love this thing with the actual half-cock notch. This is much easier. But not 100% easy. Oops. Because it is a Starr after all. See if I can drift that in. Alright, since I had to pull it off to fix that cap, I'm just going to cap the rest of them with the cylinder off the gun. And with a Starr, almost everything is easier to do with the cylinder off the gun. Alright, now I'm going to make sure these are well seated. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to replace the cylinder on the gun. Locked up. There we go. Actually, the top brake design on this is quite handy. There are a lot of things to like about this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock it up in between notches. There we go. Well, Roy's got to be feeling pretty cocky. I only managed to tag him twice with that double action Starr revolver. And since he's got an iron constitution, that's not enough to make any difference. But what he doesn't know is that I've got a single action Starr in backup. So his day's about to get a lot worse. I hope. Well, Roy is singing a different tune now. So now we're going to load the Starr single action up with conical bullets. These are the Kerr, K-E-R-R, patent bullets. This was based on a British design. The Kerr pistol was a 5-shot 44 caliber revolver made in England, and it was one of the most prevalent guns in the Confederacy. So these Kerr bullets, Kerr cartridges would have been very common in the Confederacy. Not so much in the Union side, but the reason I'm using them is because it is the only conical bullet that I know that fits under the rammer of these Starrs. Now, the original Starrs were made to load paper cartridges. They're a military gun. That was a necessity. But, you know, the replica makers don't take that into consideration, especially almost 30 years ago when this one was made. So I'm going to show you how you load this with conicals. Now, the beauty of these Starrs is they hold a lot of powder. So even with this conical, I'm still going to use a 30 grain load. So we're going to really rock Evil Roy's world with this. So I'm going to put 30 grains of powder in. All right, let me break in here and say I loaded that first cylinder full with 30 grains of powder, but I really had to crunch those conical bullets to get them all the way into the chamber mouths. So subsequent cylinders I loaded with 25 grains of powder, and that was just fine. So everything went together very well. Now what you're looking at here is a picture of conical bullets, two of them. The Kerr bullet is on the left, and the Johnson & Dow that I would typically use is on the right. Now, both of these are historically accurate bullets, and they are made using Errors Gone bullet molds. And Errors Gone just makes fabulous historically accurate bullets. But the beauty of the Kerr bullet is it is a little more rounded in the point and a little bit shorter. And that's necessary with the Starr because the Starr does not have a large enough opening under the ramrod to actually get the Johnson & Dow to seat. So that's one of the reasons why the Kerr works so well with the Starr. I'm going to dump that in the chamber. Now I'm going to take one of these Kerr bullets and I'm going to carefully get the heel so it seats. Okay, so you can see how far down it goes, and it actually makes it under the rammer. Now I've tried cartridges and they just don't work, unfortunately. So I would probably have to relieve a good bit of this right here to get a cartridge to work, and I don't know, I may do it. This is not a gun that I really feel a big need to do cartridges in, but that's a project that could be done at some point in the future. So I'm going to load all 6 like that, and then I'm actually going to grease over the chamber mouths because these bullets are not lubed. Okay, I've broken the gun open again, taken the cylinder off, and I'm going to lube over the bullets. And I'm just going to, of course, it's hard with a tripod in the way. I'm just going to do this with my fingers. It's easier to do off the gun. If these were in a cartridge, I would have dipped them in lube. But really, to me, it's just as easy to lube them after you load them. And you get more lube on them that way. So if you're not getting the benefit of fast loading with a cartridge to start with, there's no reason to slow yourself up even more with the lube. So there we go. Lube is on. Next up, 6 RWS caps. Lock it up. Well, we caught Evil Roy by surprise with that single action Starr loaded with round balls. So now we're going to see what the Kerr conical bullets will do. And by the way, those are cast from Errors Gone bullet molds. They make absolutely fantastic, historically correct conical bullets from the Civil War era. And this Kerr mold is as good as their Johnson & Dow. And I've been casting up quite a bit of them lately, and I'm going to try some cartridges with them. But it's an excellent bullet. and I'm going to see how it does on Evil Roy. I'd say about 10 inches. Those 30 grain powder charges behind those 220 or so grain conicals, you know you're shooting something. I'm sure Evil Roy knows he's being hit with something. It's like shooting a .45 Colt. Yep, got a little bit of a cap jam in here. All right, those conicals shot fantastic. It's like that's an excellent group. Yeah, so those Care conicals with the Arizgone bullet molds, really phenomenal, at least in this Starr. Okay, so as you've seen, the single action Starr is rather more reliable than the double action Starr. It's actually a pretty good revolver. So, you know, it came about in 1863 because of the Army's dissatisfaction with the double action Starr. And they went back to Eben Starr and they said, hey, could you redesign this gun to be a single action? And he said, if you're paying, we'll do whatever you want. So they did. So they made it a single action. They increased the barrel length to 8 inches, as you can see here. So they made it comparable to the Remington and the Colt, as far as that goes. With its kind of unusual grip, it is the most Euro-looking of American Civil War revolvers. It really does look like something you would have seen come out of Britain or France. And it's fairly comfortable. This grip has only one issue with it in my mind, and that is that the barrel is a little higher above the line of your wrist, the line of your forearm, than it is on Colts or Remingtons. Not much, but a little bit, and you feel a little more flip. But other than that, they are quite comfortable to shoot. So this came about 1863. It's usually called the model 1863 Starr. Now, like the Colts and the Remingtons, it's a 6-shot, 44 caliber revolver. It actually holds a little bit more powder than the Colt does, more like the Remington. So you can do a 33 grain load with a round ball, and that's a pretty good load. I typically do 30. Now, I've been loading this with the Kerr bullets, and those are cast by the Arizgone Kerr patent mold. That's Kerr. And that's based on, as I said when I did the loading sequence, that's based on a Southern revolver that was imported from England, the Kerr revolver, a 5-shot 44 caliber revolver. And the bullet profile is useful with the Starr because the Starr gives you very little room for seating a conical. So a Johnson & Dow won't fit. They're too long. But the Kerrs will fit right under the rammer. They've got a nice deep heel, and they shoot quite well. So the Kerr, if you want to shoot a conical and the Starr, the Kerr is the bullet to go with. They will not accept paper cartridges, these replicas. I've tried. I believe I could get them to with some judicious grinding. The originals did. Now, I've not read that they did, but I have seen on the antiques market paper cartridges for the Starr, actual antique paper cartridges. And there's no reason that the government would not have specified that. I mean, if they could specify to Eben lose a double action, make it an 8-inch barrel, they certainly could have said, hey, and make sure that we can load cartridges in this stuff because otherwise logistics doesn't work for us. So you know that they could. If I was using this gun routinely, I mean, this gun is kind of an example piece for me. I'm mostly a Colt guy, somewhat a Remington guy. But if I was going to use this, and if I carried it reenacting and I wanted to use it in North-South Skirmish Association live fire, I would modify it to take cartridges with the Care conical bullet. And I might do that at some point, but like I said, I got plenty of projects lined up. Now, during the Civil War, Starr produced 32,000 of the 1863 single actions. They were called the improved Starr Army revolver. Improved meaning we don't have that double action crap anymore. This is a trustworthy single action. And they were mostly issued to cavalry units. So they would have been the third, if you put all the Starrs together, well, even just this one, it was the third most popular revolver in the Union forces during the war. Now, it was a distant third. Let's be honest. The 1860 armies and the Remington new model armies, they were both like up around the 200,000 unit range, right? So this guy in the 30,000 unit range, he might be third, but he wouldn't exactly have been the most prevalent gun that you would have found out on the battlefield. So just so as you understand that. But if you want something a little bit different, if you're a cavalry reenactor and you don't want to just carry the regular Colts or Remingtons that doesn't trip your trigger, well, this Starr would have been the next best thing that would have been out there. And it's a good gun. You can shoot it very accurately. You shoot it North-South Skirmish Association matches. It'd be pretty easy to get the sights aligned. It's just like the Colt in that it has a hammer nose notch rear sight. The front sight's a dovetail post, so you can actually do a little windage adjustment for it. And if you wanted to, you could knock it right out and fabricate a higher post to bring it into zero. So that's all good stuff. Also, the brake top action is quite good for a lot of things. For instance, I like lubing the chambers, so I wouldn't have to do that with paper cartridges, and capping off of the gun. You can do it either way, but it's just nice that you can easily do it off of the gun and put it back on. I just find that to be a good feature. Also, the point at the front of the cylinder that it bears on means it handles fouling extremely well. That's actually a wonderful design. There's a lot to like about the Starr. Now, one of the things I don't like about it is, like the double action, if it doesn't complete its cycle, it will just lock up. And that can be surprisingly easy to have happen. If you have a cap, it's not really prone to the Colt style cap jams, but you can get a piece of a cap underneath the hammer, just on the hammer really, and it seems like that'll back it up a little bit. And I don't know if it's the blowback or what, but it'll move the hammer back a fraction of an inch, and then you won't be able to cock it for the next shot until you break it down, take the cylinder out, work the action, put the cylinder back in. So that's a little bit of an annoyance, and that happens more often than I would like, and it seems like recoil kind of affects it on that. So, that's just a little bit of an issue with it. But it's not really very prone to cap jams. It's got a very good shaped nipple for clearing spent caps, which I like. Got a fly that's buzzing around me here. And as I said, there's a lot to like about that. And the stuff that's a little bit dicey on it now, a good gunsmith who understands a Starr, of which there may be one in the country, I don't know, could probably make it better. Because the lock work is a little bit funky. I haven't done much work on the single action. I actually have done a lot of work on the double action. It still runs like crap. But the lock is not Colt lock work. and you really got to take some time to understand it and really understand how it operates before you mess with anything. So it's not as easy to tune in my view. But I mean, it's still not rocket science, you know. Still a single action gun. So have at it if you want to give it a try. Well, just a couple of closing thoughts for the day. We've dodged the rain. It's pretty dry right now. It was kind of a dicey morning. I gotta admit, I had to suspend operations several times in the morning to get the cameras under cover and get the guns under cover, but well, we survived it. The double action Starr continues to disappoint me, and I know many of you have told me that you have them and they run beautifully. But as you can see, mine does not run beautifully. So as I had said before, I believe my next stop is Dave Stavlow at Lodgewood Manufacturing to see if he can take a look at that and do whatever it takes to get it running sweet. And if he can, you'll see it in another video firing away and me with a big happy face on. Because who doesn't like rapid double action fire with a gun that actually spits fire? I know I do, so I'm ready to go with it. So, as I said, once again, double action Starr disappointed me. Single action Starr, as always, was fun to shoot. I haven't had it out to shoot for a couple of years. But I like to get it out every now and then just to plink around with it. It's just a fun gun to shoot, and it takes fairly heavy loads, so you can have some real booming fun with it, and we did today. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you were going to pick one up for reenacting, if you're actually going to try to fire it, I would definitely recommend the single action. Now, right now, Piet is not making these, and I think they're not making them because they had a number of quality problems with them and they didn't sell that well, which is too bad because they can be made right, and they would be a very interesting addition to the guns that we have today. I mean, the other gun that they're not making because they had quality problems with it that I would love to see again is the Colt Root Rifle that they made in '44. Not the right caliber, but still, it was Colt's revolving rifle. Now we got the Remingtons; those are fun. But I'd love to get my hands on a Colt again. I did one for a magazine article like 25 years ago, 20 years ago. And I actually really enjoyed it, but I didn't keep it. I didn't have any need for it at the time. And now I regret that. So, yeah, there's a few guns that Piet used to make that I wish they still did. But I wish that they would invest the time and the engineering to get it right. And that would be most excellent. So, that's it for this week. I hope you guys had fun. If you liked it, you know what to do. Thumbs up, right? Get that algorithm in its box. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Got my website link below. I'm not officially launching it yet, but pretty soon. So if you want to go out and check it out, if you have not, I told you the story about, you know, losing it because of the East Elbonian pirates, actually Ukrainian pirates. Well, it's 99% rebuilt now and better than ever. And as soon as we get that last 1% done, I'm going to be releasing it officially, but people are visiting it all the time and take a look at it. And if you got any suggestions, I'm always happy to hear them. The contact me form works perfectly. I get plenty of those every day. So go take a look at the website, and I will see you next week. Bye.